Hello and welcome everyone to Zenith Glow Astrology presents Harry Potter and the Astrologer's Archetype. Hello and welcome. Welcome. This may be the goofiest video that I have recorded yet. We will see. It is purely for fun. This comes as the inspiration which was given to me by my super fan. Hey, Katie. uh, yes, it was suggested to me, why don't I do a video all about the astrology archetypes in Harry Potter? And thus, the astrologer's archetype was born. Now, I realize we're going to be talking about more than one archetype in this video, but astrologer's archetype sounds better than archetypes. It just has that, so we're going to be getting into it. That's exactly what we're going to do. This is going to be very loosey-goosey, folks. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm kind of just doing it off the cuff. By the way, did you enjoy my musical intro? That was my way of getting around the YouTube copyright laws. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that. I do not know how to play the piano. I just taught myself how to do that like a monkey. So enjoy the ambiance. Um, so yeah, I think I'm just gonna go through some of the characters. Now, Harry Potter is obviously a lengthy book and film series, and there's a lot of characters in Harry Potter. We are not even coming close to talking about all the characters. I would love to do another one of these videos. If you all enjoy it, I can explore other characters that we don't have time to get to today, but I'm just picking a few of the primary characters because otherwise we would be here for hours. This would turn into like a series of Harry Potter archetypes, and we would all go blind by the end of it. No. So, yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and talk about some of the main characters, just kind of off the cuff, just discussing, what's up with the astrological archetypes that can be found in Harry Potter. Harry Potter is rife with symbolism, and it's not just astrology, it's all kinds of archetypes, it's all kinds of symbols, all kinds of myths. I mean, if you want to study this type of stuff, Harry Potter is a fantastic resource to see these types of archetypes and symbols in action. And if you're learning astrology, I highly recommend utilizing this beautiful gem, Harry Potter, to study archetypes. Now, it's always helpful to use real people from real life to learn the astrological archetypes, but it's also equally helpful to use books and films and fictional characters to understand how these archetypes operate in story or in action. So, yeah, if you're studying astrology, then go ahead and buckle up, take notes. Be a Hermione Granger and grab your notebook and be prepared to jot down notes. Just a couple of disclaimers. I'm not an expert on Harry Potter. I just enjoy it like everybody else does, okay? I'm not like a crazy super fan. I haven't read every forum. I don't know every single detail. I haven't watched every J.K. Rowling interview. I was actually surprised to come across a few little tidbits in my, scant research that I did for this video. I mean, it was very profound research, and I really dug into it for days on end. No, really, it just consisted of me rewatching all the Harry Potter movies. It gave me an excuse to do that, and then yeah, I just kind of jotted down a few notes. So, I'm mostly going off of the movies. That's one disclaimer I want to make. Uh, the books are fantastic. I have read them. It's just been a while, and I don't remember all the detail as clearly as I do with the films. I also want to point out that what I talk about today is not the be all end all in terms of archetypes. Just like actual real life people, the characters in these stories are very dynamic and they have lots of different archetypes all blended together. This is true of you with your natal chart. So often with astrology, we hear people say, like, I'm a Leo, or, I'm a Taurus, or whatever. And usually people are referring to their sun sign when they say those kinds of things. And your sun is an important sign in astrology, but it's not the only thing that makes you who you are. There's a lot of different facets to you, and those different facets will show up in different dynamics and under different circumstances. And these characters are very similar. So they hold a spectrum of expression. And what I'm going to be talking about today is honestly like the most basic, at a glance, on the surface archetype that you can get when you look at these people. And again, so like you might look at some of these characters and say, well, I think that they are represented by this archetype. And I disagree with you, Christina. I think that's fantastic, and I think you should do more of that. I think you should disagree with me through this entire video because it means that you are using your noggin and you are thinking about how these things apply, and you are using your own understanding and discernment to come to those conclusions. So that is exactly how you learn astrology, and that's also just how you learn in general, rather than regurgitating information that other people tell you. So I think that's about it. I think that's about it. So let me go ahead and get my wand ready. This is my wand. It chose me. You see, yes, it's I got it at Ollivander's, and there's a little bit of dog hair. My dog did try to steal my wand earlier. He snatched it right off of my desk and he almost chewed it up. But I saved it. I saved it. So yes, this is my wand, and it's 10 inches, and it is walnut wood, and it has a unicorn hair core, and it's you know very fragile. If I apply any pressure, it's going to break. It's also coated with a special lichen from the Loch Ness. So it's got a little bit of water energy in there as well. So, yes, this is my wand. And first, we are going to do. Here we go. We are going to start with our first archetype. And here we go. All right. There it is. Uh, Revelio. Is that one of the, you guys, oh my gosh, I am so dorky here. Okay. So we're going to talk about good old Albus Percival Brian Wolfred Dumbledore. Is that all the names? Did I get them all right? I think I was close. Um, all right. So Dumbledore is an interesting character. And again, I'm only talking about the Harry Potter movies. I realize that there's like fantastic beasts and there's all this lore that goes into Dumbledore's lore. I'm not getting into all of that stuff. I'm just keeping it real basic, guys, because again, otherwise we would be here just forever. So, some interesting astrological archetypes that stood out to me about Dumbledore. And I'm going to be doing planets and signs and whatever else comes to inspiration for me. We're just exploring archetypes, okay? So for Dumbledore, the archetypes that stood out to me the most were the planets Jupiter, Uranus, and Pluto. Primarily Jupiter and Uranus. So Dumbledore is like a Jupiter energy because he's very much like that fun teacher that everybody wants to have. He's got a little bit of that gregariousness, he's sort of like someone who likes to enjoy himself, even though, he's the headmaster and he's got to be a little bit serious in that role. You can tell that he's actually like someone who wants to kick back and have fun. He likes to eat the, what is it, Bertie Bott's every flavored beans, and he's like, yeah, he's kind of he likes to party. Dumbledore likes to party. You know that he does. So he's got kind of that fun essence to him. But on the other hand, the other component of Jupiter that Dumbledore represents is he has this kind of jovial wisdom about him. That's a very Jupiter type of thing, right? He's jovial. People like to be around him. He's got this benevolent type of energy, but he's also very wise and he knows a lot, right? He's a very skilled wizard. He also shows a lot of grace, especially to the troublesome students, the main three troublesome students. Um, he also has a lot of Uranus energy, I see in him, because he's very rebellious. I think this is especially true when we get into like the Order of the Phoenix, when the shite is starting to hit the fan. And Dumbledore has to kind of step in and rebel against the ministry because they're overstepping their bounds and things like that. And just in general, he kind of has a little bit of that rule breaker type of energy. He's also very original. I remember there's that scene when the ministry folks show up and they're gonna basically arrest Dumbledore and take him to Azkaban. And he's like, "Oh, I have no intention of going with you, don't you know?" And then he just does that, like, bam, and like disappears with Fox. And that other guy says, "You gotta admit, Dumbledore's got style." So he's got this very like original kind of energy to him as well. There's no other wizard that's anything like Dumbledore, right? So that's a very Uranus kind of quality. And he also seems concerned with freedom, right? He wants to have the ability to run the school the way that he wants, and believes that the students should get an education in whatever way is going to best serve them. He also gives a lot of freedom to his teachers, right? He kind of like sees the best in each teacher and recognizes what each of them has to offer and doesn't try to get them to conform to a certain code of rules. He lets them teach the way that they want to teach because he knows that's going to be the best way for the students to get a well-rounded education, right? So, I also threw in Pluto. Now, this is talking very much about the light aspect of Pluto, but I see Dumbledore as sort of having a little bit of Plutonian energy, mostly because his familiar is Fox, right? The Phoenix. And Pluto is the Phoenix in its highest expression symbolically. So I see Dumbledore as someone who has rebirthed himself many times. And I mean, he's got like 10,000 names in his name. So he really does have like multiple identities, and he's someone who's rebirthed himself multiple times. So, and he also, again, we're talking about the highest expression of Pluto. He has a lot of power. He's one of the few wizards who can actually stand off with Voldemort. I'm so sorry that I said his name. He's one of the few wizards who can actually stand off with him and hold his ground, right? He's got just mad skills. He's got all of that, you know, collected, cultivated wisdom and skill and knowledge that gives him an incredible amount of power. So, this is like Pluto in its highest expression because again, he's using it with integrity. He always wields his power with integrity. Okay. So, who should we talk about next? I really, I don't have too many. I don't have too many. I have more. Okay. Sorry, folks. I told you I was just going to do this like off the cuff. I don't have like a particular order. Okay, I'm going to do this person because it came up in a conversation. All right. So, if you know me personally, then kudos to you. Because you get to influence my videos and what I talk about. So, yeah, we're just gonna disapparate that and let's go ahead and pull up Revelio. Thank you, Want. Okay, so McGonagall. We're gonna talk about McGonagall next. Minerva McGonagall. I cannot do even close to replicating Maggie Smith's fantastic voice, and I've always wanted to. And believe me, I've tried. I cannot even. I'm not gonna try. I'm not gonna try. Right now, I'm not gonna try. So if anyone can do a really good Maggie Smith impression, kudos to you, and I would love to hear it. Why don't you record yourself doing that and send it to me, because I would love to hear it. Seriously, she's very difficult to imitate. Um, okay, so Minerva McGonagall, yes. What I see for her archetypes primarily standing out to me. Now, I did have someone say, is she Saturn? And I said, no. I just dismissed it. And then later I went back and I went, well, yeah, I mean, that's not fair. She is a little bit Saturn. She is a little bit Saturn. So she does have a Saturn kind of energy about her, but it's more at first glance, right? She's probably someone that has like either Capricorn rising or she's got Saturn conjunct her ascendant. It's one of those things like when you first meet her, or it could even be like Saturn conjunct the midheaven, Saturn in the 10th house. Like her public image kind of carries this more strict, authoritative kind of energy, which is Saturn. So, yes, there is some Saturn energy in there, but when you start to look below the surface, you get other things. So, two of the other things that stood out to me the most: Uranus retrograde Uranus, and then a Gemini Mercury kind of combination, right? Which are basically the same archetype, right? Because Mercury rules Gemini. So they hold that frequency. So the Uranus, okay, the Saturn thing is pretty obvious, right? Like she I'm so sorry. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. Uh, she enforces structure and order and discipline, and that's her outer mask again, right? So again, like her rising sign or her midheaven or something in that public arena, the mask that she wears, she might be holding more of a Saturnian energy. But as we watch the Harry Potter series, we see very clearly that there is more to McGonagall than just that Saturnian authoritative thing, right? She's always kind of like undercutting. I've noticed, like, especially what was that? Was that season one? Was it season one with the troll in the bathroom? Season one, movie one. Sorry. Was it the first film with the troll in the bathroom? Was that the Sorcerer's Stone? I think it was. Yeah. Hermione goes into the bathroom and she's crying, and a troll gets into the castle and it goes into the bathroom, and then Ron and Harry go in to rescue Hermione. Yeah, because it's before they're like really good friends and nobody likes Hermione at this point. So, yeah, when that whole thing is over, right? They're like, oh, you should have gone with all the other students. You could have been killed. This is terrible. We're taking, I can't remember how many points. We're taking 50 points from Gryffindor for both Harry and Ron or whatever. No, 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 no. That was for Hermione. We're taking 50 points from Hermione for Gryffindor or whatever. And so she seems very like strict, like I'm disciplining you. But then she's like, on the other hand, Harry, Ron, that was pretty heroic. So I'm going to award each of you 100 points. I don't remember what it was, the exact points, but it like basically not only canceled out what she took away from Hermione, but it like added extra points to Gryffindor. And Snape's looking at her like, what? Like, how dare you? So, yeah, she's kind of got a little bit of that like rebellious sneakiness. And then in the later movie, um, I think it was the Deathly Hallows Part 2, she's the one who calls like all of the stone soldiers off of the castle to like guard against the Death Eaters that are about to attack. And she's like, oh my God, I've always wanted to do that. She's like all excited about it, right? So I see her as having this Uranus retrograde energy. And the reason why it's retrograde is because a lot of the time when folks have Uranus retrograde in their chart, it's like they have strong Uranian energy. It's very, there is a rebelliousness. There is like an authenticity and individuality, like a weirdo, right? There's a little bit of that Uranus weirdo going on below the surface, but that's the thing, is it is somewhat hidden. And this is the difference between someone who has a strong Uranus in their chart that's not retrograde. Usually those people are pretty front and center with their Uranian weirdness. Folks who have it retrograde are a little bit more under the radar with it. They like to kind of keep it a little bit secret, and you don't get to see that part of them until you get to know them better, right? Or until they're put into circumstances where it sort of like peaks out. So Uranus retrograde energy, I see that very much with her. And I do see her valuing freedom as well. And we see that in the Order of the Phoenix when she's defending against Dolores Umbridge, who's like really overstepping her authority. And yeah. So I also see this kind of Mercury Gemini energy in her, and it's sort of the trickster, right? So again, that thing she did with the points is also a little bit trickster energy, right? Because it seems like she's doing one thing and then it turns out she's doing another thing. But also remember that she teaches what? Transmogrification, where you can like change into other animals. And does that mean that she's an animagus? Animagus? Animagus sounds better. Yeah, so anyway, what she shapeshifts into is a cat, right? So you think about cats, they're very independent. They kind of have a little bit of that trickster energy, a little bit of that like sassy, like don't mess with me kind of energy. And then also being a little bit aloof. So I see her as kind of holding a little bit of trickster energy. Like you think that she's one thing, but she's actually another thing. And then she literally changes shape. She's a shapeshifter, right? That's also an archetype associated with Mercury. Um, and I would also throw in that she has a little bit of Martian energy as well, because, and I think a lot of the Gryffindors do in general. Like anyone who's in Gryffindor has some Martian energy because they are not afraid to fight for what they believe in. And she definitely fights for justice and for loyalty. So, yeah, McGonagall. Okay. Let's just go ahead and take that away. All right, now we are going to look at good old Revelio, Hermione. I don't even know if that's the right spell. That's fine. It is for our purposes. So, good old Hermione Granger. Now, I know that most of you are probably going to look at Hermione and go, oh, well, she's Mercury, right? Yeah, she's Mercury. She's Gemini. Absolutely. And Virgo too. Absolutely. But there's a little bit more to Hermione than what it seems on the surface as well. So let's talk about that Mercury, Gemini, Virgo thing going on. So obviously, she's extremely intelligent. And she's even said in one of the movies, I'm just highly logical and it allows me to look past extraneous details. She's very methodical. She's got both the Gemini and the Virgo archetypes of Mercury, right? Because she's very cerebral and book smart with the Gemini stuff, but she's also a perfectionist like Virgo. She's very hard on herself and she always has to do things exactly in a certain way. And when things don't go according to her way, it frustrates her. And it kind of throws her off her game. She has a little bit more difficulty kind of just rolling with the punches. I mean, she gets better at this as she gets older, right? But obviously, those are incredible skills. Her attention to detail is what gives her a leg up on most people. And then we see that, especially in the later movies. She really, really helps Harry and Ron when the three of them are on the run and that kind of thing, because she's able to remember all the little details, right? She's got her little knapsack and she's got that charm on it. And you can just, yeah, it's like the never ending knapsack. So she remembers every little thing, right? She's got like something for everything. That's attention to detail. That is Virgo energy for sure. So another layer to Hermione that many people might not realize, at first glance, is that she actually has very strong Cancer energy, in my opinion. She has this very soft, watery, emotional, loving kind of energy. So again, she's highly cerebral and she's very methodical and all of that, but she also has a really big heart. And we see her really caring for her friends when they are in trouble. We see her crying when people are upset. Like there's that scene when, what is it? Oh my gosh, the Goblet of Fire, when Mad Eye Moody, because he's not really Mad Eye Moody, right? When he's teaching Defense Against the Dark Arts and he decides to teach the unforgivable curses, and he's got the poor little like spider thing, and he asks Neville for the curse, and he says, "Oh, the Cruciatus curse." So then he starts like torturing the bug, right? And Neville's like, ah. And then Hermione's watching and she's the one who's like, "Stop it. Like, can't you see that it's bothering him?" Like, she's got this like empathy for people. And that comes across in a lot of different scenes. And then of course, like, her heart, like when she's, in love with Ron, but the two of them can't get their stuff together to actually admit it to each other, right? And Ron ends up dating the crazy girl. Hermione is extremely hurt by that. So she takes things to heart. She's very sensitive, even though she likes to come across as being, very mercurial. She's actually very sensitive, like a Cancer is. And she's got a mothering energy too, right? She's always like, go to bed. Or like, don't do that. She's always looking out for her friends in this kind of motherly sort of way. So I see her as having Cancer energy. And then, of course, she's also got the opposite. She's got Capricorn energy as well. So she's got some of that, like, I have to follow the rules. This is the way it's always been done. This is tradition, that type of thing. And then she's also very ambitious and she has a lot of goals, right? So there's kind of Capricorn going in there. Now, I'm not saying she never rebels. Obviously, they all rebel, right, at some point. But I'm just saying in general, especially earlier in the film series, she's a little bit more like play by the rules. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, we'll go ahead and take away Hermione, and we are now going to look at her counterpart, Revelio. Ron. So, I like how I'm not doing anything. I'm just like flinging, I'm flinging my walnut wand. I do have a walnut tree in my yard, folks. I mean, I got it at Ollivander's. What are you saying? Shh. So, Ron, yeah. Okay, when I first was thinking about Ron, I actually had some difficulty identifying his archetypes because Ron's actually kind of complex in a weird way. Like, he doesn't seem like he's complex. He seems kind of like, you know, like just a bloke, like just a guy who likes sports and likes girls, and he seems on the surface like he's surface level, but he's not at all, right? As we get to know Ron better. So, what I saw for Ron is a lot of fire energy, and it's not just because he's a ginger. He's got Mars and Aries energy, he's got Jupiter Sagittarius energy, he's got Leo, he's also got some Uranus energy as well. And again, they all kind of have some Uranus energy. Um, but yeah, with the Mars and Aries, so again, he loves sports, right? He wants to play Quidditch, and you know, he wants to kind of like be the best, like when the movie where he takes the fake Felix Felicis, thinks that he took it, and he's kind of in it for the glory, right? He wants like that bravado. He wants to be acknowledged, right? It's kind of this show off type of energy. That's both a little bit Jupiter and a little bit Mars energy. And then also like, kind of charging into things head first without really thinking about it. That's a very Mars Aries kind of energy. Um, so yeah, and he's very passionate, and then like all the Gryffindors, he's very brave. Ron is very brave, and I like Ron's bravery because he's actually scared. but he does it anyway, especially like earlier in the movies when, he's afraid of the spiders and there's all kinds of things. Like I see it especially with Ron. You know that they're all technically scared, but Ron really shows you that he's scared, but he does it anyway. So I think that's like the epitome of courage. Um, yeah, he definitely shows a lot of wisdom, especially as he matures. He kind of gets played off as sort of being a dope or like being an average student. But then we learn, especially by, the Deathly Hollows, that he's actually picked up a lot and he's learned a lot from his peers. It's almost like more of a street smarts kind of thing, where he learns from like practical application versus like book smarts, right? But then he's almost like surpassing Hermione in her acumen because he's got the kind of embodied wisdom that comes with that. And that's sort of like a Sagittarius thing as well. That kind of embodied wisdom you learn by doing it, right? Not just by researching it. Um, He's also got the Jupiter Sagittarius energy because he loves attention, as I said, and he's a little bit hedonistic. He's like, yeah, like give me food. Like, oh, I'm just like eating and eating and eating food. And Hermione's like, what are you doing? Your best friend is missing. And he's like, what? Like, I still gotta eat. You know, that is very much like enjoying the pleasures of life. That is a very Jupiterian kind of thing to do. Um, and then also with loving attention, that kind of goes into the Leo thing as well, right? But Leo, especially, uh, because he is so loyal, of course, to his friends, he's incredibly loyal. They all are, and that's actually part of the Gryffindor archetype as well. But he's incredibly loyal. And he really just wants to be accepted. He really has trouble in the beginning with how popular Harry is and how much attention Harry gets at certain times, especially as they go into their like pubescent era, when all the hormones are raging. Ron kind of gets like a little bit more competitive with Harry or feeling like a little bit more threatened by Harry, and it's because he wants that attention. And it's interesting if you start to break down Ron's history and like his family and you think about it, it's like, well, his family, he's got, you know, all of these older siblings, brothers who are well accomplished, right? Like Bill is off training dragons and Percy, that little pissant. I'm just kidding. They make him really look kind of nasty in the movies. I think he's better in the books. But Percy is like head boy, and he's working for the Ministry of Magic and whatever. And then even his brothers, like the twins, like they go and start their own shop and like they're accomplished and they do well with women. Like they're all like, chill, where Ron feels a lot more awkward. And then even Ginny, his younger sister, she's like, you know, doing really good on the Quidditch team and she's a super accomplished witch, right? Like she's just got natural skill. So like his entire family are like super accomplished, highly skilled wizards and it kind of puts Ron uh on the back burner a little bit or like it makes him really have to strive to find his identity and his place in a world that just labels him as another Weasley and wants to just place him as being average, right? Like, oh, you're the best friend of Harry Potter, but you're not Harry Potter, right? You're one of the Weasleys, but you're not the Weasley who's the most accomplished or whatever. And I think that that's what gives Ron like some grit, some gumption. And so by the time he does get older and comes into his own, he really starts to own the true Leo energy, which is when you are able to shine your light from a place of authenticity without caring what anybody thinks of you, right? And you're genuinely wanting to give from your heart at that place. And then I put my notes. I said he's also a little bit Uranian. I said rule breaker, parentheses, stole car. It's true though, right? Like he kind of just goes out and does these things. Obviously, Fred and George, his older brothers, are very like, rebellious. But Ron definitely has that too. Like he's not afraid to break the rules, especially when the circumstances call for it, like when his friends are in need and that type of thing. So I think that yeah, we'll call it right there. And yep, we're gonna go ahead and take away Ron. And we're gonna talk next about who are we gonna talk about? Where's he at? Where is that dude? Revelio. Ah, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, he who must not be named, Voldemort. Okay, so this is pretty obvious, but we'll talk about it anyway. So Voldemort very much holds Pluto and Scorpio energy, but he also holds Saturn and Capricorn energy. Okay. And he's definitely, obviously, the dark side of all of those archetypes. He is the negative, the darkest, the lowest of the low. That downright dirty bastard. No, I'm just kidding. He definitely has the lowest frequency out of all of those archetypes, right? He's the dark one. He takes the dark path. So, and out of all the archetypes in astrology, Pluto and Scorpio have the most potential for darkness, I would say. It is the darkest that you can get. But on the flip side, it can also be one of the brightest, lightest archetypes as well, just depending on if you can go through that transformation that Scorpio holds. But Voldemort transforms, but in like a very dark way. And he's very much, I mean, it's so like on point. Like when you pick up an astrology cookbook and you read about Pluto or you read about Scorpio, it's like, yep, that's Voldemort, right? So, shadow aspects, he's got like he's incredibly powerful. I will say that Pluto represents power in astrology, okay? Pluto is power dynamics, how you attain power, what kind of power you have, how you wield power over others. It can also be how other people are wielding power over you, but obviously in the case of Voldemort. And it can be control as well. And so can Saturn and Capricorn. I mean, these kind of go pretty hand in hand. They're just slightly different from each other. So I have power, ambition, manipulation, control, hierarchy, leadership, abuse. Ends justifies the means. That is a Plutonian kind of energy. The ends justify the means, right? There's also this like unwillingness to face your pain. Now, I don't know the full story behind Voldemort. I feel like it was talked about in the books and I feel like it's been explored in other places. Obviously, he's Tom Riddle. Obviously, he had like a rough childhood and then Dumbledore came in to try to help him, right? And try to teach him the right ways and all of that, but he still ends up taking the dark path because he's got like this Damien bad seed kind of energy in him, right? It was a lost cause from the start, guys. But Pluto definitely has this energy of like Pluto wants you to transform through pain. So it's like when you're willing to face your own darkness and allow yourself to be transformed by it, even though it's incredibly painful to do so, that's when you get rebirthed. That's when you become the phoenix, right? And you enter into the light aspects of Pluto and Scorpio as well, because these archetypes go very much together. Uh, but Voldemort is like very much the shadow. He doesn't want to face his pain. And you can see that in what he does with the Horcruxes, right? So obviously, again, ends justify the means. So he killed, what were there, 7 Horcruxes? So he killed 7 people so that he could split his soul into 7 different Horcruxes. And that's sort of like his insurance to make sure that no matter how many times people kill him, he can always come back, right? But then you see the Horcruxes like getting destroyed one after the other, and he feels that, like that little part of him dies every time that happens. And it's sort of like at any point in this story, technically, Voldemort could turn around and be like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I see the light and I'm willing to face my pain and I'm going to let it transform me. And everyone would be like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, okay." Like, yes, yes. That's we go along with the Dark Lord, although he's not dark anymore. No, I'm just saying, like, there is always an option to change your path, no matter how painful it is, right? And Pluto shows us that. But Voldemort clings. He clings to his power. He's absolutely refusing to face his own shadows. He clings to this desire for control and for domination, right? He wants to be the best and he wants to control the world and he wants to control other wizards and he wants to obliterate all the muggles and all of that and all the mudbloods and all of that, right? So, again, this is a very Plutonian, Scorpionian kind of energy where it's just this refusal to transform. And so, what happens with Pluto in astrology is it will offer you evolutionary change. Now, you can do this change incrementally. Okay. And that's when you are willing to have those little mini ego deaths and go through those small transformative processes to get through to the next level of your evolution. Or it will deliver cataclysmic change. And so essentially, the idea is that Pluto gets what Pluto wants no matter what. And when you refuse to face your shadow and refuse to have the little ego deaths, eventually, what Pluto attracts to you that it is drawing in to enforce your evolutionary change, these incidences that it draws in will slowly get bigger and bigger and bigger as you go along, right? Until finally you're hit with cataclysm and something happens to you that is so traumatic that you have no choice but to change. Because again, Pluto gets what Pluto wants. And at that point, you're forced to die. And it's a lot more traumatizing than it would have been if you would have just stepped up and faced the little pains and the mini ego deaths and all of that that come along the way. So Voldemort holds this energy as well, right? Because he's refusing, like he clings to his power, and each of his little horcruxes, his little pieces of his soul, die. And then finally he's at the end and he's still refusing, right? He's still trying to take down Harry Potter. It refuses to accept defeat. And then we see him as this like pitiful little whatever he is in the in-between world, right? After he's killed. So and then at the very end he completely dissolves. So it's like game over, man. Game over, man. Uh sorry. It's actually an Aliens 2 reference. Congratulations if you got that. So yeah, he absolutely represents that dark Plutonian energy, and then he also represents the dark um, Saturn and Capricorn energy as well, because it has to do with like that order and that structure and that top-down hierarchy thing, and then wanting to have dominion essentially over everything. So, okay, we are getting to it. Who should we talk about next, guys? I think we're going to talk about perhaps my favorite Harry Potter character, and perhaps yours as well. Revelio. All right. Severus Snape. Yeah, maybe one of the best written characters ever. I mean, do you disagree? By the way, folks, Merry Christmas, because we are almost at Christmas time. If you are watching this during Christmas time, Merry Christmas. I'm going to be watching Die Hard on Christmas. That is my ode to Alan Rickman. If you haven't seen Die Hard, you guys, Alan Rickman. I mean, come on. He's such a dynamic actor. He was. Um so Severus Snape, one of the best written characters ever. Okay, astrological archetypes I picked out for Severus Snape. We have Mercury. We have Neptune and Pisces energy. We have Saturn and Capricorn energy. And then we have Leo and Uranus energy as well. I would also say Pluto and Scorpio energy. And we'll talk about that too. I didn't write that down, but I'm thinking that right now. So let's talk about that. Okay, Mercury, because he is, well, not only is he incredibly intelligent, right? He's the half-blood prince. He has the potions book that he made all of the little special notes in, and he was able to figure out all that stuff. Like, he's incredibly talented, he's incredibly intelligent, but he's also a trickster, right? Snape is a trickster. He's a turncoat. He's a double agent, right? He's a double agent. Or is he a double agent? No, no, he's just a double agent. You don't know with Snape because he's kind of got this shapeshifter energy about him. Obviously, we go through the entire series thinking that he's the bad guy, only to discover that he's actually one of the bravest people in all of the Harry Potter lands. So, yeah, he's a genius. He's a master of disguise in that way. He is a master of disguise. That makes him the trickster. He's able to conceal his truth, his past, who he truly is. And neither side, with the exception of Dumbledore, nobody knows who Snape really is. Everyone who knows who Snape really is dead by the end of the series, right? With the exception of his tears. Oh, it was such a good scene. It was such a good scene. Okay. So, the Neptune and Pisces of it all. How does he hold Neptune and Pisces energy? Well, no, let's talk about Saturn and Capricorn because it's more obvious. He's got that control and authority, right? And that's probably his most predominant energy. His aura comes across as very controlling and dominant and authoritative. Um, and so again, kind of like McGonagall, he might have like Saturn conjunct the ascendant, or in the 10th house conjunct the midheaven, Capricorn in either of those places. It would kind of hold that sort of energy. Okay, now let's go to Neptune and Pisces. That was easy. We're just going to talk about it and sweep right past it. Okay, so Neptune and Pisces. Sacrifice, unconditional love, empathy, and sensitivity. We see all of this, of course, by the end of the series when he actually dies, and we get to see his tears in the pensieve. By the way, a little side note, isn't it interesting that the pensieve is used to view memories, and that memories come through tears, right? And I know people also pull them out of their head like what's his name, Slughorn and Dumbledore himself. They kind of pull them out of their head. But in order to view the memories, you have to use the pensieve, and the pensieve is water, right? So again, just going back to some of my previous videos that I did where I talked about water and cellular memory and history and ancestry, it's just kind of interesting because it falls into that theme as well. But anyway, yeah, so we learn that Snape is actually an incredibly empathetic and sensitive child, right? He immediately takes to Lily, and he has like so much love for Lily, and he's kind of like a little sensitive boy, and then he gets pushed around by bullies, including Harry's father, and it hardens him, right? It makes him into a hard person. And that is where the control and the authority comes from. It actually comes from this place of not wanting to be vulnerable because he's been hurt. So then we bring in the Pluto of it all, right? Transformation through pain, having darkness in your past, having faced the darker aspects of life. This is very Plutonian. He also lost the love of his life, right? That's a Plutonian thing. Getting acquainted with death, transforming through death experiences. These are Plutonian and Scorpio type of energies. And so Snape is definitely got that darker energy about him, but again, he's not actually dark himself. And the fact that he is a shapeshifter, right? That he is a double agent. He has to go to these very dark places, right? He goes to the meeting with all the Death Eaters, and Voldemort pulls out his co-worker. I can't remember her name, but she was the one that teaches about Muggle studies, right? And he's got her suspended in midair, and then he kills her in front of Snape, and the lady's like pleading, like, Severus, please, we're friends, and he has to just sit there like, mm-mm. And just watch Voldemort just Avada and he has to like hold it together. I mean, it takes a lot of control. That's a Scorpio thing. And also to be able to face the darkness. And that's also a sacrifice thing too. Um, and then, yeah, to watch like some of the darkest of the dark, because then, Nagini eats the lady. So not only did he watch his friend get murdered in front of him, then he watches her immediately get eaten by a giant snake. So that's absolutely this dark energy, like being able to face the darkest parts of reality. But again, he himself is light, and yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. So but this Neptunian Piscean energy, he's got all this empathy, this love, this compassion, and then sacrifice. He loved Lily so much, right? He loved her so much that even though she married another man, had a child with another man, like he will always love her, right? Dumbledore says, it's so good. Dumbledore says, Severus, still, after all this time, meaning you still love Lily, you're still holding a candle for Lily. And he says, always. I just love that. It's so good. So, yeah, he's got this devotion. That's a Neptunian thing as well. Devotion, unconditional love. That is pure unconditional love. What he does for Harry is unconditional love. Even though we think, Snape is Harry's enemy throughout the whole thing. Nah, man. Like, he loves Lily, and he is, yeah, like preserving her child, protecting her child, even though it is also the child of his enemy, right? And the man who took like the love of his life away from him. And yeah, it's just this beautiful like act of devotion, everything that he does. He pretty much all does it for her. Everything I do. Okay, no, I'm not going to do it. Um, so yeah, and then obviously he sacrifices himself. It comes down to that as well. So, I also put Leo and Uranus in here. And that is really down to, he's a genius. That's the Uranian archetype, right? He's writing in the book, he's putting in his own notes in the margins, he's coming up with his own ideas, his own spells, septum sempra. Yeah, you know what I mean. The bleed out spell, that really brutal, like he's really is like a true, um, blah 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 blah. What do we call him? Slytherin. He's like a true Slytherin, and I really like his character because Slytherin always gets a bad rap, right? Like Slytherin is depicted as the worst of the worst, especially when you watch the movies. It's like there's no good Slytherins. Don't watch the movie. Even at the very end, when they're in like the Deathly Hollows and they're waiting to be attacked, and that one Slytherin chick is like, "Get him! Get Harry! Like he's right here!" And McGonagall's like, "Okay, take all the Slytherins and go put them down in the dungeons and lock them up." It's like, are there no good Slytherins? Are there no Slytherins that didn't want to have a part in that who actually support Harry Potter? And so Snape, I think, is the perfect example of a good Slytherin, right? He's got all of the classic Slytherin characteristics, but he still has that heart and that integrity and again that devotion and that unconditional love and that willingness to sacrifice and to face darkness for the people that you love. And then let's see, we're going to have a separate discussion about Patronuses. Patroni? What's the what is the plural of Patronus? Patroni. Patrone. I also see Snape as having Leo energy as well, because there is the inner child. Again, his inner child is connected with Lily. They're soulmates. You know what I mean? Like Harry's father might have been like her romantic love person, but Snape is her soulmate, her inner child soulmate. And then, yeah, Leo, love, and then bravery. Obviously, he's very brave. Okay. Alrighty. We're getting close here, folks. Get out of here, Snape. Now, I love you. Get out of here. Now we're gonna talk about dun 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 Revelio. Um, Harry Potter, the obvious, the big kahuna, the big man on campus, but he's not really that big, is he? He's kind of a little guy. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Harry Potter. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. He's got a lot of the same archetypes that Snape has. And that's why I am covering them back to back. No, I actually didn't do that on purpose. It just kind of happened that way. Harry, he's got Leo and Sun energy. He has Aquarius and Uranus. He's got Pluto and Scorpio. He's got Neptune and Pisces. So Harry Potter is born July 31st, according to the books. So he literally is a Leo. And he is like the truest Gryffindor. He's like the truest Gryffindor. Um, but he also has this, I think he has the greatest balance out of all the Gryffindors. I think he has the greatest balance between the Sun and Leo and then Uranus and Aquarius archetypes. Now, these are sister signs in astrology, right? They are polarities. And in astrology, you need the sister signs to balance each other out, right? Because you can easily sway into the shadow aspects otherwise of any given sign if you're not balancing it with the polarity of the sister sign. So for Harry, he's got this Leo energy, right? He's got heart, he's got bravery, he's the chosen one, he's literally famous. That's a Leo kind of quality. But he is also balanced by Aquarius, where he's got this detachment and humility. So if he didn't have the Aquarian archetype to balance, then he would be like Harry Potter. He'd be like, what's his name? Oh my gosh, what is his name? The famous guy from the Chamber of Secrets. I am totally spacing his name right now, but the really like pompous teacher that teaches defense against the dark arts that everyone thinks is hot, but is actually not. Do you guys notice that when you watch the movie? Like he's supposed to be like this really good-looking professor, and he's just kind of like this. I don't. I don't get it, but I mean, Ginny Weasley thought he was good looking. Which doesn't make any sense. Ginny's like really little in that. Anyway, yeah. So if Harry didn't have the humility from Aquarius, from this, that sister sign energy, he could be this like pompous jerk who knows that he's famous and is super into his fame, and but it affords him some detachment. It kind of keeps him a little bit more grounded. As well, he's got the Pluto and Scorpio. Okay, so he experiences the temptations of the darkness, but he very much symbolizes the light aspects of these. So again, he's literally holding Voldemort's soul, right? Like Harry is a Horcrux, right? He's been touched by evil, essentially. And that actually also speaks to how pure he really is. Because he literally holds like a seed of evil inside of him, and yet he's still able to fight for the light and commit these acts of bravery and be loyal and be a good person and still be pure at heart. His Patronus is a stag, right? We're going to talk about that. So he definitely also, as well, does all the things I said that Voldemort doesn't do, right? He transforms himself through pain. He confronts his fears. Harry is, always uh, confronted by fear. He has to step through the darkness continually over and over again. He's also losing people, right? That's that Plutonian Scorpio energy. Like, obviously, he's an orphan. He lost his parents, but then he also gets Sirius and finally has like hope to have family. And then Sirius dies. So it's like he's always facing death. And then Dumbledore dies. And then Snape dies. Like, everybody dies, right? So he's always facing death, but he keeps persisting. And then he ultimately has to face his own death. And this is kind of a little bit of both archetypes. This holds kind of a Neptunian Piscean archetype where you're sacrificing yourself for the greater good. You're doing it through unconditional love. But it's also the Pluto archetype because he's willing to walk through the darkness, to walk through the fire. And what happens? He's reborn, right? He's brought back to life. He's literally brought back to life by the stone. So, yeah, he is definitely that Pluto and Scorpio archetype as well. And then I already kind of talked about Uranus. He's very non-traditional. He's a rebel. He's like, out of all the characters, Harry's like the number one character that just doesn't give an F about any rules. Like, he will do what Harry does, what Harry wants. He doesn't follow the rules at all. So he holds, again, very strong Uranus and Aquarius, but also that Leo sun energy. So, okay. And I know that, sorry, I hit my microphone. Go away. I know you think that we're done with characters now, but I have one more special character, Revelio. Okay, real quick, I wanted to talk about Malfoy. I saved him last because I wanted to juxtapose him to Harry a little bit. And I just find Malfoy really interesting as a character. And it seems like there's actually a lot more to him than what the movies fully reveal to us. And again, I know I said I wasn't going to get into that kind of stuff, but I did come across some things when I was researching. I thought it was really interesting. I learned that, so Malfoy, he is sort of like a Saturn retrograde character. He's got some of the Pluto stuff and the Scorpio energy. Obviously, he's a Slytherin. I feel like anybody who's in Slytherin has some Scorpio energy. But he's a really interesting character because he just really strongly holds this Saturn retrograde archetype. Now, what does the Saturn retrograde archetype mean? Oftentimes in astrology, when we see someone with Saturn retrograde, it implies that the people in their life who taught them discipline, authority, rules, hierarchy, the people who stood as their father figures, or the people who held masculine roles or taught them masculinity in their life, all those examples ultimately don't work for them, the Saturn retrograde person. They go through their life learning things a certain way from these people or these examples, right? Or these energies. Like, this is society, these are the rules, this is how you conduct yourself to be an upstanding member of society, this is how you fit in, this is how you're accepted, this is what discipline is, this is what success is. We're taught all of these things, right? And then you bring in the fatherness of it, whether you literally have a father or a father figure or someone in that masculine role or an authoritative role, right? These people are shown like, this is what it is to be a father, or this is what it is to be a man. This is what it means to have authority or to obey authority. People with Saturn retrograde they receive these examples through childhood. They might try to follow these examples. They might try to adhere to what they are taught. But ultimately, what they discover is that those things don't work for them. They don't make sense to the Saturn retrograde person. And eventually, whether it happens earlier in life or later in life, the Saturn retrograde person learns how to make their own rules and how to create those definitions for themselves according to what feels right and just to them. And that is very much Draco Malfoy. He is like, such a daddy's boy. initially, he's trying to appease his father, essentially, through most of the story, right? And him and Harry are nemesis. He is, yeah, Harry's counterpart, his enemy, but they're also kind of similar in some ways. You can't really have a nemesis if you don't share some sort of similarities with that person, right? So him and Harry actually hold some similarities between them. And Draco is brought up in this family that's very wealthy, that's very prestigious. I read something about like there were Malfoys that worked for like the Queen of England or something, and they killed people for the Queen or royalty or something like that. They did insidious things to gain power, right? Again, there's that Plutonian, ends justify the means type of energy. So he's raised in this family, and those are the values that are instilled in him. And he adheres to those things. And it's interesting because Draco's wand says a lot about him, right? At one point, Harry steals or he wins Draco's wand in a duel, and then he meets with Ollivander and asks, like, whose wand is this? And Ollivander's looking at it and he's like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, reasonably pliant, unicorn hair core. This is the wand of Draco Malfoy, or it used to be. Its allegiance has changed or whatever. I've seen the movies way too much, you guys. Uh, I'm pretty much quoting the movies. So reasonably pliant, right? So that is Draco. It's like his dad says jump and Draco says how high, right? He gets, uh, you know, recruited to be a Death Eater because his dad wants him to be, or rather, his dad's being pressured by Voldemort to have him be, that kind of thing. So his dad's kind of reasonably pliant too, isn't he? so so Draco is like very much living out this archetype, but then we learn that later in life, and this came not through the movies, right? I read this online. Later in life, Draco marries this woman who is also a pureblood. They have children, and they choose to raise their children not to hate mudbloods, not to think of them as different or to be treated differently. And it actually goes against his family, and it creates these huge waves in his family, and he gets rejected by his family for doing this. So again, that's a Saturn retrograde kind of energy. He's rebelling against the traditions of his family and especially his dad, and he's choosing his own path. And we see that even throughout the movies. There are moments when Draco is, doing his thing and he's provoking Harry and whoever. And then something happens that crosses a line, and the other Slytherins are like enjoying the cruelty of it. And Draco kind of like winces at it, like, ooh, I don't think that's actually okay. Like, oh, that's a little too far, right? And so then we are brought back to the core of his sorry guys, my freaking wand. We're brought back to the core of his wand, right? Unicorn hair. Um, I think J.K. Rowling or someone said that unicorn hair wands are the hardest to turn dark. They are the hardest to use for dark magic or to make to do dark deeds, basically, because unicorns have the purest energy. The wand chooses the wizard, right? And Draco literally has like this blonde hair, and I know that his whole family does, but like you also have to think about it in terms of symbolism, right? He's got this pure blonde hair. It's like, or it's like white. It's a white, like a unicorn, right? His wand chose him. So I think that Draco Malfoy actually has a very pure heart, but he's been conditioned, Saturn, Capricorn, right? To be a certain way because of his father, because of his family, because of the pressure of his family and the lineage and the history and all the things that they've done, right? And he ultimately and he tries to kill Dumbledore and he can't do it. He can't seem to do it. Now, is it the wand? Is it Draco? Is it both? right? You can't make the wand turn dark because of that unicorn hair, or it's very hard to do so. But I also think that Draco has a good heart, and that's why he's not able to do that. And this is what truly makes him Harry's nemesis, not because they are so different, but because they actually are very similar, right? In that way. And they're both kind of struggling against these images that have been imposed on them, or these circumstances that have been imposed on them. And they're both trying to find their own path in the world. And they both kind of mirror each other, right? And for Draco, it's like Harry is the living embodiment of everything that he secretly wants to be, right? It's like Draco has this pure heart, but he's not allowed to live it because of the pressure of his family. So, anyway, Saturn retrograde, Draco Malfoy. Okay, we're going to wrap up here, folks. We're almost done. I just have a couple more points to make. We'll go ahead and take away Draco. And let's see, very last, I wanted to talk about, well, very briefly, we're going to talk about Revelio. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, my wand. Oh, okay, I just didn't flick it right. You got to get the wrist action in there. Where's Hermione when you need her? Okay, so I just want to talk about the houses for a second. I find the houses really interesting because they remind me a lot. This is not really an astrology thing, it's more of a tarot thing, but they remind me a lot of the world card from the tarot, which I'm going to show you a picture of that. Here, we'll just look at it real quick. Revelia. Okay, so this is the world card in the tarot, right? Now you'll notice in each corner of this card, we have 4 different figures. What these figures represent are the fixed signs of astrology. So in the upper left corner, we have Aquarius. In the upper right corner, we see an eagle, which represents Scorpio, because Scorpio is the scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix. In the lower left corner, we have Taurus, and in the lower right corner, we have Leo. Okay, so we also have earth, air, water, and fire, and those are all the fixed signs. I'm staying consistent. I'm committing to the bit, you guys. I'm committing to the bit. So yeah, with all the houses, it's interesting because they each represent one of the elements, right? Earth, air, fire, and water. And to me, they also represent this fixed grand cross in astrology. Because we literally have the lion, which is Leo, or Gryffindor, which is Leo. We literally have Slytherin, the snake. I mean, it's very close to the symbolism of Scorpio, right? Because Scorpio is about transformations. Snakes shed their skin. Oh my gosh, this is way too many S's. This is very hard to speak right now. Yeah, snakes are about shedding and transformation, right? So Slytherin. We have Hufflepuff, which is like the earth sign. This would be like the Taurus kind of energy. And then Ravenclaw obviously would be more of the air, the mental kind of energy. And that is symbolized by Aquarius in astrology. And I know I really wanted to do more characters, and I wanted to talk about like Luna Lovegood and Neville and all of them, but gosh, you guys, we're already over an hour as it is. But I will say, just a small little note, Ravenclaw, Luna definitely holds some Aquarius energy for sure. And Ravenclaw, she's in Ravenclaw, right? So we can see the fixed grand cross, and I just find that really interesting, just something to consider. So you can study each of these archetypes individually to get more information on that. Okay, we're going to wrap up by talking about, we'll take that one away, and we are going to look at this last little bit here, Revelio. The Patronuses, the Patroni, the Patrone. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, going back to Snape and to Harry and to Harry's parents. Okay. So, we know that Harry has a stag as his Patronus, just like his father. And then we know that Lily and Severus Snape both have the same Patronus, which is the doe. the female deer. Doe, a deer, a female deer. Sorry. Okay. Whew. I was in choir as a child and through high school, and we had to sing that song a lot when we would warm up. So first of all, the Patronus is interesting. And what did I say about the Patronus? I said that, you guys, what did I say about the Patronus? I think that the Patronus is interesting, right? Because it is something that we wizards and witches conjure to dispel the darkness, literally, right? Oh my gosh, I am completely blanking on what they are called. What is happening, you guys? I remember every little flippin' thing about Harry Potter, but I'm completely spacing about what they're called. This is gonna bother me. So anyway, it's used to dispel the darkness, right? I'm cheating right now, you guys, because I can't believe that I'm completely having a brain fart right now. Welcome to Zenith Glow Astrology, astrologer of brain farts. Yeah. So it's like you have the thing that Dementors. Sorry, you guys. Are you having fun yet? Oh my gosh. You're like, dude, we're an hour and 15 into this. Keep it going, Christina. So Patroni are used to ward off Dementors. Dementors feed off of people's happiness, right? I think this is really interesting if you ever want to dig into that. They're kind of like parasites in that way. They're like dark parasites. Like they go and they find people, but in particular, they like to feed especially off of people who have had trauma, right? Because Harry, like, he's affected by the dementors in ways that other people are not, right? Like they make him pass out. They don't seem to do that to other people. It's like because Harry has experienced such darkness and trauma, um, it affects him differently. And I think that's really interesting because, again, Harry is like the purest character, even though he holds this darkness within him. But that's how pure he really is because he's equally graced by his mother's love at the same time, right? Like her love protected him from actually dying. And that's how he became a Horcrux, right? So he has this juxtaposition of dark and light. The darkness is super dark, but the light is equally bright as dark as the darkness is dark. Okay. So yeah, I just think it's interesting that it's sort of like his light has to be extra bright for them to want to feed off of him in that way and to be drawn to him in that way. Okay. So the Patronus to me seems to symbolize the soul essence of the individual as symbolized through the animal, right? It's basically that person's inner child because that is your light, right? Remus, when he's teaching how to conjure a Patronus, he says, think about your happiest memory. Or was that with the Boggart? No, that was with the Patronus. So he says, think about your happiest memory, like the thing that makes you the most joyful. That's your inner child. So it's like in order to combat the darkness and the thing that feeds off of your sadness and your energy, right? You have to conjure like something that is so joyful and comes straight from your heart, straight from the pure essence of your being. And it is enough to like illuminate the darkness and to push back the darkness. So I think that's really interesting. And then we have these patronuses of the stag and the doe. And then we have to also think about the symbolism of Gryffindor itself, which is the lion. And I've talked about this in other videos. Leo and the lion, this energy actually connects to the Christ, right? This is the Christ energy. There is a theory in astrology that Yeshua himself held Leo energy in some way. And I think it was Pluto in Leo. And it's all about taking that purity of the inner child, and emulating it, emanating it outward to bless other people with that light, that purity, and that goodness, that inherent goodness. It's like the purest essence of your soul. And that's where that kind of, yeah, like Leo the Lionheart, or Richard the Lionheart, whatever it is. It's that lion heart, right? That's where the bravery comes from. That's where the courage, the loyalty, the goodness, the purity, the pure essence of the inner child comes from. Now, the stag and the doe are interesting because each of these hold Christed energy as well. They are actually very sacred pagan symbols that hold this kind of Christ-like energy. And we just have the masculine and the feminine, right? It's really interesting that there were 2 and 2 in Harry Potter, because you've got Harry's dad and Harry with the masculine stag, and then you have Lily and Snape with the feminine doe. But either way, these animals are Christed type energy because they symbolize grace and gentleness and sacrifice. And yeah, it's just that like soft, pure energy of like the Christ energy. So I find it really interesting because, again, Severus Snape, this is where that Leo energy comes in. Not only was he brave, but he had that kind of gentle heart, the same kind of gentle heart that Lily had, right? And he sends his Patronus to help Harry when Harry can't when he can't destroy the Horcrux, or no, when he's drowning, whatever, you guys, you've seen it. You know what it is. You know what I'm talking about. So I think that this is just really interesting. These symbolize grace as well, the stag and the doe. The stag holds the slightly more masculine energy, but it's almost like Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, like that kind of archetype. So, yeah, there's a lot to be found there if you want to dig into it. But I just wanted to briefly talk about that because, again, Snape has that energy too. It's not just Harry. And it's not just Harry's parents either. But they're kind of like spiritual royalty in a way as well. And again, Leo, royalty, right? And Christ, the king, like, you know what I mean? Like all of these things sort of fit together as archetypes. So, all right, we will. That's not, nope, nope. My wand, you guys, it's not working. There it goes. There, it's working again. Okay. Hi, folks. This was my very first off the cuff Harry Potter and the Astrologer's Archetype installation, investigation. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. It was a little crazy. I hope it was informative, though. I hope you had fun. The whole point to this was to get in touch with the inner child and just have a little bit of fun and to think about astrology in a different way, where we're not so serious and we're not just always looking at the transits and, oh, the shadow work and, oh, the shadow work. Like, let's have some fun. Let's talk about how this stuff can apply to other things. And then remember, if you're studying astrology, this is a great way to learn these archetypes. So, all right. Thank you so much for watching. If you are catching this around Christmas time, I wish you a very Merry Christmas, a very Happy New Year, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye, y'all.